Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going over things not to do in World of Tanks Blitz. And coming up first right here is overextending right at the beginning of the game. As you can see, we're on Middleburg and 3 enemy mediums and lights have pushed very hard into our spawn. And they did not wait long enough because, we're not all the way up the hill, so they don't spot us and they immediately think it's okay to go. And the Batchat eats 1300 to the face. There's a couple of ways that they could have prevented that. First off, I'm in a 183, the thing that you want to get shot by the least, as you can see there. Their enemy team has a 183. What they could have done is looked at their spawn as the 183 is going up the hill and assumed that me going up the hill, I'm going to be in the exact same spot on my way up. So they see that their 183 hasn't crested the ridge yet. Most likely, if I'm on my way up, I haven't either, so you're not going to spot me until I do. Wait until your 183 gets there, and that's where you can assume that I'm at. If you don't spot me by then, chances are I'm not going up the hill. Still be safe, but that's just a good way to gauge it. Look at your heavies and assume the enemy heavies would be in generally the same area, as long as there's not a huge speed difference between the two groups. Here we're going to be moving on to some specific crossings that people make that I disagree with, and these are going to be controversial because these are really popular moves. The first one here is the hill on mines, and this isn't going to be the enemy team. This is going to be our Skoda T50. He bounces 350 right there, but he takes 543, and then he gets shot again. Now he has the hill, but he's under 600 HP very early on in the game. At 630, basically, he's on 560 or whatever he's at. So in my opinion, that's nowhere close to worth it, because at the very beginning of the game, that hill position offers little to no value. You can't peek anything that you couldn't peek from any other angle with it. It's just not that useful until the mid to late game, and by the time the mid to late game rolls around, you're probably not going to take 1100, 1500 damage for crossing anyway. And if you're up there all game and somebody like me conserves their HP and wants to take the hill at the end, you're a free kill because you're on 500 and I'm basically full HP because I didn't waste my hit points on the crossing. Now, the enemy heavies and my friendly heavies are in the town. Usually, if you've watched my videos, I like to take control of the town because there's a lot that can be done over there as long as you don't overextend. His Royal Fatness has a lot of videos out about, or I've seen on his streams at least, about how you don't want to push past town, and I agree with that. I'm kind of overextended on this side of the map. I'm just trying to get spots off and be a little bit adventurous. And because there's heavies on the town side, I'm forced to play on this side. This is not something that I usually do, so I'm a little bit uncomfortable over here, but there's no better way to get comfortable than playing it. So I got aggressive, I spotted the tank destroyer, and I know this Progetto's here, and if I'm spotted, chances are he's going to come by and try to shoot me. So I leave as soon as I know that I'm somewhat safe to do so, and I try to avoid that tank destroyer bush as best as I can, and I get out of there, because I don't want to have to 1v1 a Progetto and get on low HP and then have to fight tank destroyers and handle the mid to late game on low HP. So I'm going to leave out of there and try to be more passive against this guy and see if I can get supported. And this is what I mean about the middle hill is more important at the mid to the late game. Now that the beginning phase of the game is over, I'm expecting support from where that Skoda and that tank destroyer are on the middle hill. That's probably one of the best places I can get supported from for finding this Progetto's position and this grill. But you notice at the same time, there's nothing spotting them if they wanted to cross now. So if they had done something else at the beginning of the game, and then now when that position has become useful, crossed over, they would not have lost all that HP getting there. And that's my main point for this position. It's not bad all the time, it's just bad at the beginning. You take a huge risk, a huge gamble. 9 out of 10 times you lose most of your HP for very little benefit while you're doing it. And if you just learn to time these things, and you could sit in the spawn for the beginning half of the game and you'd probably end up better off than crossing at the beginning and losing half your HP if you just sat in the spawn and then later on moved when you don't lose half your HP to get the position. You'll also notice here that me taking the flank is really what's opened up the game and our ability to sweep them here. Because without me distracting that grill and taking out this Progetto from the corner, that Skoda that has now pushed in would be unable to do so without putting himself into a crossfire. And the other thing to note is now that he's up there, he's so low health, he can't do anything about that low health grill either. So he's going to have to sit there and wait for his teammate to help him. And if he had done something else and conserved his hit points by not making this meta crossing that actually serves very little value, he would have been able to kill that grill much quicker. This game is pretty much over. It looks very close, but we have a lot of map control right now, and I'm pretty confident in my abilities to carry this, especially with the Jagdpanzer E100 just firing there. I know that I can take a shot from him easily and then clip him out and win. Another thing to note about that central hill position, which is now actually being used well by our 268 version 4, is that where this Jag is starting off and anywhere on this ramp, you can easily counter the meds at the beginning of the game. And an opening play that I like to do when I'm in a faster heavy tank is push up to the rock corner by the cap circle to see if I can shoot around any slow heavies coming out of the enemy spawn, and then move back to where that Jag is, because a lot of the times the mediums that just crossed the hill will be waiting to go unspotted, generally where that 268 version 4 is, and then I'll have free shots into their rears from back there, and they won't be expecting it, even though it's one of the only angles that they're not safe to. So the end of the game is here. We just finished off that BZ-75. Pretty easy win. 5 kills, 5.3k damage. Not really anything I could have done if I didn't have HP, and I probably wouldn't have had that HP if I crossed the mid-hill at the beginning of the game. So take that into account the next time you play mines. I know a lot of people hate playing mines. That might be part of the reason why. You just have to figure out how to use the rest of the map and not be so concerned about one position that isn't useful until later on. Moving on here to what I assume is going to be a more meta light tank in the coming update, the T100 LT on the Port Bay map. Now the Port Bay map is a very big map, and not a lot of this map gets used. And I'm going to say first off right away, I've said this before, if your heavies do not cross the roadway with the bridge on your side into the C cap area, you should not be sitting where I am right now. Sometimes you can get away with crossing to the corner that I'm going to now, but you should probably find another place to be, because if the enemy heavies get to that spot, you're not going to have a good time. You're going to be in a massive crossfire with no way to leave. And my point here is this crossing to where I'm going. I see people do this less frequently than the mines crossing, but it still happens. These games were back to back, so just so you know, this is how common these things happen. Now, I know you might be thinking, you did the exact same thing, right? Well, no, not exactly. I didn't get spotted crossing the river. I'm in a T100, I'm a much smaller target. This STB got spotted going up the river, and even though he's not the one crossing, our whole team is going to be looking to see if he does cross. And when he doesn't cross, the M48 does anyway. They're not going to say, oh, that's not the STB. They're going to be like, oh, someone else crossed, let me shoot him instead. So your medium tank is probably not fast enough to just dry cross that from the beginning of the game unless there's nothing spotted. If there's nothing spotted, that's completely fine. But if there's a brawl happening, it's really just not a good idea. And where the STB is playing is really where I like to play this map from in a medium. I'm not in a medium, and I'm trying to be a little bit more aggressive because I want to get rid of this guy's crossfire. As you can see, I'm just out DPMing him right here and being really aggressive. That's the only reason I crossed. If I wanted to just farm damage, I would be in a tank with more gun depression and sitting where he was. Now, if you're watching the chat, you're going to notice how the SDB is ranting about his team. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit to the beginning of the game when I said don't occupy either side of that position no matter what spawn you start on if your heavies don't cross to the C hill. This comes with a caveat. If your heavies cross to the C hill, but the enemy heavies are more in number, or there's just more tanks on the C hill and they're obviously going to win, you should probably leave. And you can leave if your heavies are doing the proper job. So the reason that I'm pointing this out is this STB is ranting about how bad his team was, but really what he did is he watched his entire team go to the other side of the map and then decided on his own he would go with 2 other tanks when my entire team is in the direction that he went, and now he's complaining that his team couldn't support him from a position that he chose to go to. Now, I don't mean to call out this player specifically, I'm just calling out the mindset of I'm always right that a lot of players have. You get to a higher level and you realize that just play with your team. You should be able to play the whole map. Playing Seaside or not playing Seaside doesn't determine the victory. It's determined by how you play and how your team plays. And when you're good enough, a lot of the time it's just pretty much how you play. So if you're going to go and throw your tank away because you refuse to play a different position, you're the one throwing, not your team. You should think about how everybody else is playing, not just yourself. So to recap Port Bay, the med side and the C heavy side go together. You cannot have one without the other unless the enemy also doesn't have the other one. So you also need to be careful when you occupy either of those positions, because if you see that you're a heavy and there's no meds in the corner, don't go to the heavy side because you're going to get crossfired by the enemy meds. If you're a med and you don't see your heavies crossing, probably a bad idea to go to the corner, because you're just going to get crossfired by the enemy heavies when they take C. Just don't be afraid to leave the position if you feel uncomfortable in that position. Now we're moving on to Canal. I see this all the time on Canal. Slow heavies or tank destroyers trying to get to the A corner for no reason. You're spotted more than halfway across that. That guy just took all of his HP and damage trying to get there. Now that he's there, it's the same idea as the mines thing. You know, that position's useful, whatever, but how are you going to make use of it if you're a one-shot? It's just not useful. The position I'm in is a very good alternative. You just need to make sure that you have support. If you don't have support, play a little bit back further or don't go down here at all. But this position comes at the advantage of you spot those enemies crossing, and if the enemy heavies don't come across, then your team can cross. So I just, in general, would not go to the A corner unless I'm in a medium or a light tank and I know I won't get spotted. Or if I'm going to, I'll stop at one of the houses halfway, wait for the heat to die down, and then cross. But I just generally stay away from there, because once you're there, you can't really leave, and if the enemy decides to not make your position valuable, it won't be valuable. From down here, I have support. I can leave from multiple positions. There's just so much more that I can do here. You can see I can shoot that E100, make him back up. If I want to cross, which I will eventually, to where that 60 TP is, I can. If I want to leave through the encounter cap circle, I can. If I want to just back up and make them rush deeper in to attack me and bait them, I can do that as well. There's not all that you can do from the A corner. And the value of the position itself isn't my problem. The position is pretty valuable. It's the price that it takes to get there. As you can see, I have 2,300 assists just from people trying to cross that right now, and they're all gonna die up there. I'll say that now. I mean, there's no reason in getting there if you're gonna die to do it, no matter how good the position is. After I kill this E3 here, I'm gonna start getting aggressive on them. I'm gonna push up on this ramp and use the VZ55 7 degrees of gun depression to get some pretty easy shots in with its 470 alpha. This is a tank that I kind of am looking forward to in the next update. It's going to get a 2-shot autoloader, but at the same time, I really like the way this tank plays right now. You can see me just doing a ton of damage in single shots, and I don't have to worry about my clip reload and losing DPM at that time. I just have a consistent 11.5-second reload with really good damage, a really accurate gun with a combat stabilization, and pretty good penetration as well. You can see in this game, I really didn't have to do anything special. All I had to do was spot for my team and support. And this points out something as well. If you're playing a tank destroyer or a medium or a light and you don't really know what to do on this map and you see a heavy tank going low towards encounter cap at the beginning, just pre-aim to A crossing. You know, 75% of the time there'll be someone crossing that gets spotted. Whether or not they're fast enough to get through, I don't know. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. If they're in a heavy tank, they're probably not going to be fast enough to cross before you shoot them. So if you want some free early game damage and you spawn on the correct side of the map, just pre-aim this. You can even shoot it from the top of the med side hill all the way on the other side of the map if you know what you're doing. I hope this helped you guys if you make those specific crossings and it ends up not working, or if you're just a good player trying to get better, some crossings you can take advantage of if you're looking and trying to catch people out doing things that are dumb. And again, I'm not trying to say that these positions are always unusable or never useful. I'm just saying be careful when and how you get to them, because a lot of the time it's just really isn't worth it. Anyways, have a great day. Thanks for watching.